Good afternoon, this is David Wendell with BushcraftOnFire, and we're glad to have you with us for another video. We had a great time to California with Dave Canterbury and Steve and Lance, but on the way my knife sheath ripped, and I've been getting a few questions about how to fix things in the field. So what I want to do today is to show you how I'm going to repair this knife sheath, and you can see the stitching ripped right out where it holds onto the belt. So I'm going to take some tools that I carry with me all the time and see if I can't fix this up. The process will be the same whether it was a pack, whether it was a sheath, whether it was my clothing. So this will give you a good idea of how I fix things out in the field. First thing that I'm going to do is to show you a little needle that I carry. This is actually a needle from a product called an Easy Awl. It's a needle that has a hole at the wrong end. A lot of needles have holes up here, but this is a very strong, very sturdy needle. It has a hole down at the bottom, and it makes stitching in the field and field expedient repairs very easy. Another thing that I have is a stick that I just went out and got out of the bush, just off, I don't even know what kind it is, probably oak or hickory. It fell off a tree, it was just a small branch that was down. And finally, I have some artificial sinew. This is just cotton thread, and I wax this. They sell some that's waxed, and I have some that's waxed, but I have this piece here. It's black. It's actually my son's. It'll match the sheath and blend in. And I ran it through a candle a few times, through the waxy part of a candle, just to put a little wax on it to make it slide easier. So what I'm going to do is to show you how I prepare and make my awl. The first thing I'm going to do is to take this branch, and if I was out in the bush and wanted to keep this, I could shave it. It won't matter for this. But I'm going to put a hole right in the end of this to accept this needle, and that will give me an awl of sorts that I can then go ahead and sew with. So let's get right to business. On my SAK, I also have an awl needle. And if I was doing larger work, I could actually use this as the needle. You can see it has the same hole there that I could put my stitching through. However, that's going to be way too big to go through this sheath. So what I'm going to do with this awl is I'm going to go ahead and bore a hole right in the end of this little branch that I have. I'm going to go in at a 90-degree angle from perpendicular here. I'm going to go straight into the branch. I don't want to crook it. I want to go straight in. And I'm just going to bore a hole in there for about a half to an inch and get that bored out. You can see it just takes a few seconds with this awl to go right through that wood and make a nice hole. You might remember this is the same technique that we actually used when we were making buttons. So I'm going to get that hole in there and put the needle in, and I'll show you what that looks like. See that I have the hole in there now, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this needle in, and I'm going to take out my multi-tool, and I'm going to push that down into the wood a little bit. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn around for a second. That pointed end, make kind of a little point that'll go in further. I'll tap it a few times down in there, and that'll make a hole in there for me. Now I can turn it around, and I'll take my pliers and put back here and just push that in so it's nice and tight. So there we go. Got ourselves a little needle, little awl, and I'll go ahead and stitch that. Just run my thread through the end. And we've got our sewing kit. So again, nice easy way to have a sewing kit. Let's see how we use this. What I did, because this stitch is going to be a hidden stitch, it's actually inside the pouch, and I'm going to have to shove that needle in there, is I changed out to a needle, same thing, an Easy Awl needle, but this one has a little bend on the end. Give me a little bit easier reach underneath of there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that where the old stitch hole was, and I'm just going to simply push it through the material and push it right through the pouch as well. Now one of the things I should show you is that on this Easy Awl stitch needle there's a groove, and that thread actually lays in that groove, so when I pull that back you see it makes a little loop in there. And that little loop will allow me to make my thread. But for now I'm going to pull this through, and I'm going to pull the short end thread out so everything's through. Now I'm simply going to pull myself back out, and I'm going to go in a little bit different spot, just down the thing a little bit. Try and get it about where it was before and pull that needle. Now you can see that when I get that hole, I can go ahead and put this thread right through that little hole. What this is going to do is make a lock stitch for me. When I pull that back out, it's going to lock that in place. I don't know if you can see that because it's the same color thread, but that's locked in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back through 3 or 4 times and basically go back and forth through those 2 holes. It's a little bit difficult to work here because, as I said, we're going up in a place that's hard to see, but I'm going to go back through there a couple times and see if we can't get this sewn up, and I'll be back with you. What I did on the last stitch is I pulled that end piece right up through that we had sewn with. You can see I threw 3 or 4 stitches back here. Again, this is a very heavy material, so what I'm going to do now is just put a couple of knots in here. Square knots will be fine. Tie that tight on this side, and that will give me the end of the knot, and it'll be nice and stable, so it's not going to come out, come loose, and it'll repair my kit. And I'll just simply go back and I'll carve off those little tag ends. Wrap the rest of the thread up that's left over and put back in my kit for next time's use. And again, a little bit of this thread goes a long way for sewing simple things. I'm not making shirts out of it or anything. I generally carry 10 or 15 foot. So, put my old timer back in there, and as you can see now, we've got our loop on there. It's nice and tight, and that's stitched and ready to go back on my belt. Well, I hope that's helped you out a little bit, and all that we used for that, again, was a little easy all needle. This is light, it's easy to carry, and it sits right in your pack. This is a curved one. They also make straight ones, and they make them in a couple different sizes, so I highly suggest you invest in these. They're about $1 or $2 a piece, and they're easy for using. So all that we used in order to do that sewing was a piece of waxed thread. They call it artificial sinew. You can buy it online. A small easy all needle, and again, these come, this one's curved. You can get straight ones like the other one was. And we used a piece of wood that we just hollowed out the handle to stick our needle in and give us a little handle to push. You don't have to use that. You can try and push this with your hand. It'll probably work, but I do it because it's a little bit easier. I don't get holes in the back of my hand trying to use it. So a quick little kit for the bush. Takes care of all of your needs. This is David Wendell with Bushcraft on Fire. Hope you've enjoyed this short video on how to repair your gear out in the wilderness. And I've got some packs and different things that I need to go in there and fix up as well. So join us again for another video, and it's great to be back with you.